Or would it just hurt more? I thought about what Eleanor had said. Love without boundaries isn't love, it's enabling. Maybe this meeting could be my boundary. My chance to tell Elijah exactly what he'd done to me. With witnesses. With legal protection. With the power dynamics finally balanced. Not a screaming match. Not a manipulation session. Just truth. I picked up my phone and texted Rosa, "I'll do the meeting, but I need you to promise me something if I start to weaken. If he starts getting to me, you'll intervene. I need you to be my strength when mine runs out." Her response came immediately. "I promise. I've got you, sis. Always." At 8 a.m., I called Dr. Kim's office and confirmed the Thursday appointment. If I was going to face Elijah today, I needed to know I had professional support scheduled for the aftermath. At 9 a.m., I made breakfast and actually ate it: yogurt, fruit, granola. Fuel for the battle ahead. At 10 a.m., I showered and dressed carefully. Not my best clothes, I wasn't trying to impress anyone. But not pajamas either. I chose dark jeans, a simple blue blouse, minimal jewelry. I wanted to look like someone who was surviving, not thriving but not destroyed either. At 11 a.m., Rosa arrived to drive me to Chen's office. She took one look at me and nodded approval. "You look strong." "That's good. Let him see what he threw away." "I'm terrified," I admitted. "Good. Fear means you're taking this seriously. But Simone? Remember, he's the one who should be terrified. He's the one facing federal charges. He's the one who betrayed you. You hold all the power now. Don't let him manipulate you into forgetting that." At 11:55, we walked into Bernard Chen's conference room. Chen was already there, papers spread out. Agent Morrison was on a video call screen watching remotely, and at the far end of the table sat Elijah. He looked terrible. He'd lost weight at least 15 pounds in just a few days. His eyes were hollow, his skin pale. He was wearing the same clothes I'd seen him in 2 days ago, now even more wrinkled. When he saw me, his face crumpled and he started to stand. "Stay seated, Mr. Rodriguez," Chen said firmly. "This is not a social visit." Elijah sank back into his chair, his eyes never leaving my face. "Mom," he whispered. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I sat down across from him, Rosa on one side, Chen on the other. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. But I kept my face neutral, my voice steady. "I'm listening," I said. "You have 30 minutes. Say what you need to say." And my son, my lying, thieving, manipulative son, began to cry. Elijah's tears were loud and messy, the kind that came with heaving sobs and gasping breaths. Part of me, the mother part that had comforted him through every childhood nightmare, every teenage heartbreak, every adult setback, wanted to reach across the table and hold him. But I kept my hands folded in my lap. I'd learned my lesson about confusing sympathy with surrender. "Mr. Rodriguez," Bernard Chen said calmly, sliding a box of tissues across the table, "you requested this meeting. If you can't compose yourself, we'll end it now." Elijah grabbed several tissues, wiping his face roughly. When he looked up at me again, his eyes were red-rimmed but clearer. "I don't know where to start." "Start with the truth," I said, my voice flat. "That would be a nice change." He flinched. "You're right, you're absolutely right. Mom, everything you think about me, it's all true. I lied, I stole, I betrayed you in every possible way. And the worst part is, I knew what I was doing, every single time." "Then why?" the question tore out of me. "Why, Elijah? I loved you. I would have done anything for you, and I did. I gave you everything I had. Why wasn't it enough?" "Because Madison made me believe it was never supposed to be enough," he said, his voice cracking. "From the beginning, she'd compare what you gave us to what her father gave her. Your mom gave you $5,000 for the car? My dad just bought me a Mercedes outright. Your mom paid for a weekend in Colorado? My parents send me to Europe every summer. Everything I got from you, she'd twisted into proof that you didn't really love me as much as her parents loved her. So you decided to take more? To lie and steal to keep up with the Ellingtons?" "I decided I was failing as a man," Elijah said bitterly. "That's what she made me feel like every day, that I wasn't enough, that I couldn't provide, that I was weak and pathetic, and the only thing keeping her around was the hope that eventually, when you, When you died, we'd inherit enough to live the life she deserved. The casual mention of my death, spoken like it was just a matter of time and planning, sent ice through my veins. She talked about me dying, about my inheritance, constantly. Elijah's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. She had spreadsheets, Mom. Literal spreadsheets calculating your net worth, your life expectancy based on actuarial tables, how much we'd get after estate taxes. She'd update them every few months like it was a stock portfolio. Rosa's hand found mine under the table, squeezing hard, keeping me grounded. "And you never thought to tell me?" I asked. "You never thought maybe I should know that my daughter-in-law was literally counting down the days until my death?" I was ashamed. The words exploded out of him. "Don't you understand? I was so deeply ashamed that I'd gotten involved with someone like that I'd let it go on so long that I couldn't figure out how to leave, so I just went along with it. Went along with everything. The lies got easier. The theft felt justified because you had so much and we had so little. She made it all sound so reasonable. $93,000 in a secret bank account sounds reasonable?" Chen interjected coldly. "Money stolen from her law firm and your mother? If this part really struck a chord with you, tap that like button to let me know you're with me. Do you see yourself in the character's journey? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I can't wait to hear your take." Elijah's face went pale. I didn't know the full extent until the FBI showed me the evidence. I knew about some of it, the embezzlement from her firm, the fake rent amounts, but the secret accounts, the other victims in other cities, the whole criminal network. I swear to God, Mom, I didn't know it was that big. "But you knew enough," I said. "You knew she was stealing from me. You knew the rent you told me was $1,500 was actually $2,500, and you pocketed the difference for 3 years. You knew about the guardianship plan. You knew, Elijah. Maybe not every detail, but you knew enough to know it was wrong." "Yes." He looked directly at me for the first time, not crying now, just hollow. "I knew enough, and I did it anyway. Because I'm a coward. Because I was afraid of losing her, even though she never loved me. Because somewhere along the way, I stopped being the man Dad raised me to be and became this thing I don't even recognize." The mention of Robert hit harder than I expected. "Don't you dare bring your father into this. Robert would be devastated. He would be ashamed of what you've become." "I know." Elijah's voice broke again. "I think about that every day. I think about Dad watching me from wherever he is, seeing what I did to you, seeing how I betrayed everything he taught me. I think that's worse than any prison sentence they could give me, knowing I destroyed the one thing Dad asked me to protect. You. He made me promise at his funeral, remember? He made me promise I'd always take care of you." I did remember. Robert's last lucid day, he'd pulled 8-year-old Elijah close and whispered, "Take care of your mama, okay, buddy? She's going to need you." And Elijah had nodded solemnly, taking the responsibility with the seriousness only a child can muster. "You broke that promise," I said quietly. "I shattered it," Elijah agreed. "And I can never put it back together. That's what I've realized sitting in that hotel room for the past 3 days. There's no fixing this. There's no amount of apologizing or explaining that makes it okay. I destroyed our relationship. I destroyed your trust. I destroyed us." Agent Morrison's voice came through the video speaker. "Mr. Rodriguez, your attorney requested this meeting to discuss your plea agreement. We need to get to the substance of that conversation." Elijah's attorney, a nervous-looking man in his 30s named David Brennan, cleared his throat. "Yes, my client is prepared to plead guilty to all charges: conspiracy to commit wire fraud, identity theft, elder financial abuse, and attempted guardianship fraud. In exchange, we're requesting that Mrs. Rodriguez not submit a victim impact statement recommending maximum sentencing, and that she support our request for the prosecutor to recommend the lower end of the sentencing guidelines." "What's the difference?" I asked Chen. "Maximum sentence for these combined charges would be 12 to 15 years in federal prison," Chen explained. "Lower end of guidelines would be 3 to 5 years, with possibility of serving in a minimum security facility and potential for supervised release after 2 years with good behavior. 12 to 15 years. My son could be locked away until he was in his mid-40s. His entire prime adult life consumed by the consequences of his choices. 3 to 5 years. He'd be out by his early 30s, still young enough to rebuild his life. "What does the prosecutor think?" I asked Morrison. "The prosecutor is willing to consider it, given Mr. Rodriguez's cooperation and the fact that he wore the wire. But frankly, Mrs. Rodriguez, your opinion carries significant weight. You're the primary victim. If you want maximum prosecution, we'll pursue it. If you're willing to show mercy, we'll factor that in." Mercy. That word again. I looked at my son across the table, this man who'd taken $329,000 from me, who'd lied to my face for years, who'd plotted to have me declared insane and warehoused in a nursing home, who'd stolen his own father's legacy and squandered it on a woman who'd been using him from day one. And I also saw the 8-year-old at his father's funeral, trying so hard to be brave. The teenager who'd worked part-time to help with household expenses when money was tight. The young man who'd cried in my arms when his first startup failed, who'd been vulnerable and real with me before Madison twisted him into something unrecognizable. "I need to ask you something," I said to Elijah, "and I need the truth. Not what you think I want to hear, not what your lawyer coached you to say. The real truth." "Anything," he said. "Do you actually love me? Have you ever actually loved me? Or was I always just a bank account to you?" The question hung in the air. Rosa tensed beside me. Chen and Morrison watched carefully. Brennan looked like he wanted to stop Elijah from answering, but the attorney knew better than to interrupt. Elijah was crying again, but quietly this time. "I love you, Mom. I've always loved you. That's what makes this so unforgivable. If I didn't love you, if I'd just seen you as a resource, it would be easier to understand. But I did love you. I do love you. And I hurt you anyway. I took advantage of that love. I weaponized your generosity. I became the kind of person who hurts the people who love them most because I knew you'd forgive me. I knew you'd always forgive me." "Would have," I corrected softly. "I would have always forgiven you. Past tense." "I understand." He wiped his eyes. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm not asking for our relationship back. I know that's gone forever. I'm just asking. I'm begging. Please don't let them lock me away for 15 years. Please give me a chance to eventually become someone worth being, someone Dad would have been proud of. I know I can't be your son anymore. But maybe, in 5 years, I can be a decent human being. Maybe I can spend the rest of my life making amends, even if not to you." Rosa leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Whatever you decide, I support you. But remember, mercy without accountability is just more enabling. He needs consequences, real consequences." She was right. But what were the right consequences? Maximum prison time that would destroy what was left of his life? Or measured punishment that left room for redemption? I thought about Lily, my daughter who'd grown up without me but somehow turned into someone kind and artistic and full of grace. I thought about the life she'd had because I'd made one hard choice 27 years ago, giving her to people who could love her better than I could at that moment. Maybe this was another hard choice. Maybe love sometimes meant letting people face the full weight of their consequences, even when it broke your heart. Or maybe love meant believing in the possibility of redemption, even for someone who'd burned every bridge. "I need time," I said finally. "This isn't a decision I can make in a 30-minute meeting. Mr. Chen, what's the timeline on this?" "The prosecutor needs an answer by Friday," Chen said. "That gives you 2 days." "I'll have an answer by Friday." I stood up, gathering my purse. "Elijah, I want you to understand something. Whether I agree to recommend leniency or maximum sentencing, our relationship is over. You are not my son anymore, in any way that matters. You broke that bond, and it's not fixable. So whatever choice I make, it's not about us. It's about what kind of person I want to be, what kind of justice I believe in. You don't get a vote in that." "I understand," he whispered. "Do you have anything else to say to me?" "This is probably the last time we'll speak directly until the trial." Elijah stood slowly, his whole body shaking. "Just to thank you. For raising me right, even if I forgot the lessons. For loving Dad the way you did. For working so hard to give me opportunities you never had. For being the kind of mother who deserved better than what I became. And I'm sorry. I'm so desperately sorry for every lie, every theft, every moment of cruelty. You deserve the world and I gave you hell. I'll carry that for the rest of my life." I nodded once, then turned and walked out of the conference room. Rosa caught up with me in the hallway. How are you feeling? Numb, I admitted. Angry, sad, confused. All of it at once. That's normal. This isn't a decision you have to make alone. Talk to Eleanor. Talk to Dr. Kim tomorrow. Think about what you need for closure. We walked to the elevator in silence. As the doors closed, I caught one last glimpse of Elijah through the conference room glass, still sitting at that table, his head in his hands, the picture of devastation. And I felt nothing. No urge to comfort him. No desire to take back my harsh words. Just a vast, echoing emptiness where maternal love used to live. Maybe that emptiness was grief. Or maybe it was freedom. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the meeting with Elijah, his tears, his apologies, his claim that he'd always loved me. Were any of those tears real? Or was this just another manipulation, another performance designed to get what he wanted in this case, a lighter prison sentence? At 2 a.m., I gave up on sleep and went to my home office. I pulled out the box of photographs I kept in the closet, 30 years of memories. Baby Elijah in the hospital, so tiny and perfect. Toddler Elijah taking his first steps in our old apartment. 5-year-old Elijah at Robert's funeral in his little suit, trying so hard not to cry. Teenage Elijah at his high school graduation, grinning with his diploma. College Elijah moving into his dorm at Rice, excited about his future. 23-year-old Elijah at his first job, proud in his business casual clothes. When had the sweet boy become the lying man? Was there a specific moment? Or had it been gradual, so slow I hadn't noticed until it was too late? I found a photo from 3 years ago, Elijah and Madison's engagement party. Madison was stunning in a white cocktail dress I'd bought her at Nordstrom. $340, I remembered, because she'd said nothing else in the store was suitable for the occasion. Elijah had his arm around her, looking at her with absolute adoration. And Madison? I looked closer at her expression, really studied it for the first time. She wasn't looking at Elijah, she was looking at the camera, her smile perfect and cold. And her free hand, the one not visible to Elijah, was holding her phone at an angle, like she was checking messages even during her own engagement party. The signs had been there all along, I just hadn't wanted to see them. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mrs. Rodriguez. This is David Brennan, Elijah's attorney. I apologize for texting so late, but something has happened that you need to know about immediately. Can you call me? It's urgent, and it relates to Madison. My heart rate spiked. I called him back immediately. Mrs. Rodriguez, thank you for calling. Brennan's voice was tight with stress. I need to inform you that Madison Ellington made bail 2 hours ago. What? Agent Morrison told me she was denied bail. She was. But her father, Judge Ellington, called in some favors. He put up his Dallas estate as collateral worth $3.2 million. The federal magistrate was persuaded that Madison wasn't a flight risk given that level of security. She was released on house arrest with electronic monitoring at 7 p.m. Ice flooded my veins. Where is she now? Theoretically, she's at her father's estate in Dallas, under house arrest. But Mrs. Rodriguez, Brennan paused. The FBI just contacted me. Madison's ankle monitor went offline 45 minutes ago. They sent officers to the Dallas house. She's gone. She cut the monitor and ran. The room spun. You're telling me she escaped? That she's out there somewhere? Yes. And Mrs. Rodriguez, the FBI reviewed her visitor logs from detention. Her father visited her yesterday afternoon. According to surveillance footage, he passed her something, a small object they couldn't clearly identify on camera. They think it might have been a burner phone. Why are you telling me this? Because when they searched her father's house after discovering she'd fled, they found a laptop. On that laptop were detailed notes about you, your daily routine, your schedule, the security system at your house, and Mrs. Rodriguez. There were communications with someone she called T. The messages discussed eliminating the obstacle and making it look natural. They believe T might be the private investigator she's been working with. My hands started shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. You think she's planning to? I think you're in danger. Serious danger. Madison has nothing left to lose now. She's facing 15 years in federal prison. Her criminal network is being dismantled. And she blames you for all of it. The FBI is taking this threat very seriously. What do I do? Officers are being dispatched to your house right now for protection. Do not open the door for anyone except uniformed police who identify themselves properly. Agent Morrison is also on his way. And Mrs. Rodriguez? If you have somewhere else you could stay tonight, a friend's house, a hotel, now would be the time. I heard a sound outside. A car door closing? Or just my imagination fueled by terror? I'm going to call my sister, I said, my voice shaking. She's former FBI. She'll know what to do. Good. Call her now. And Mrs. Rodriguez? I'm sorry. I never imagined Judge Ellington would be foolish enough to help her escape. He's destroyed his own career over this. After hanging up, I immediately called Rosa. She answered on the first ring, instantly alert despite the hour. Madison escaped. She's out there somewhere, and the FBI thinks she might come after me. I'm already in my car, Rosa said, and I heard an engine starting in the background. I'm 20 minutes away. Go to your bedroom, lock the door, push something heavy against it. Stay away from windows. Do you have anything you can use as a weapon? I don't know. I'm not a weapons person, Rosa. Kitchen knife, heavy flashlight, fire extinguisher, anything. Get something in your hands right now, and stay on the phone with me. I grabbed the heaviest flashlight I could find from the utility closet, one of those big Maglite ones that was basically a club with a bulb in it, and ran to my bedroom. I locked the door and pushed my dresser against it, years of yoga classes finally paying off in unexpected ways. I'm locked in. Dresser against the door. Good. Now I want you to get in your closet, all the way in the back, behind your clothes. Make yourself small and quiet. If she somehow gets in the house before police arrive, I want you hidden. Rosa, this is insane. This is like a horror movie. This can't be real. It's real enough that you need to treat it seriously. Now get in that closet. I did as she said, crawling to the back of my walk-in closet, wedging myself behind winter coats I rarely wore in Houston. The flashlight was heavy and solid in my hands. If Madison somehow found me, I'd use it. I wasn't going down without a fight. I'm hidden. I'm 15 minutes out, police should be there in less than 10. Just breathe, Simone, in and out, stay calm. That's when I heard it, the sound of breaking glass downstairs. Rosa, I whispered. Someone's in my house. Police? They would have announced themselves. Then it's probably her. Stay absolutely silent. Do not move. Do not make a sound. I could hear footsteps downstairs now, moving through my kitchen, then on the stairs, coming up. Slow, deliberate, searching. A voice called out Madison's voice, but different. Unhinged. Simone? I know you're here. Your car's in the driveway. We need to talk, you and I, about how you ruined everything. About how you turned my husband against me. About how you're going to fix this. The footsteps reached the hallway. I heard her trying door handles, the guest room, the bathroom, getting closer to my bedroom. You think you're so smart, Madison continued, her voice rising. You think you won? You haven't won anything, you pathetic old woman. You're just an obstacle. You were always just an obstacle. Between me and the money. Between me and the life I deserved. And now you're going to pay for getting in my way. She was at my bedroom door now, trying the handle, finding it locked. Simone, she pounded on the door. Open this door right now. We're going to settle this tonight. Through the phone, I could hear Rosa shouting commands, probably to police dispatch. 2 minutes out, 2 minutes, Simone, just hold on. Madison hit the door again, and I heard wood splintering. She was breaking through. The dresser might slow her down, but it wouldn't stop her. I gripped the flashlight tighter, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might burst. This woman, this person I'd welcomed into my family, fed at my table, tried to love like a daughter, was breaking down my door with murder in her voice. Another hit, more splintering. The dresser scraped against the floor as the door pushed it back. You should have kept your mouth shut, Madison snarled. You should have just let us have what was rightfully ours. Your money was going to be ours anyway when you died. We were just speeding up the timeline. But no, you had to be difficult. You had to call the FBI. You had to destroy everything. A final crash. The door burst open, the dresser shoved aside. I could see her through the crack in the closet door. Madison, still in her jail clothes, her hair wild, her face twisted with rage, and in her hand, she has a gun, I whispered into the phone. Rosa, she has a gun. Simone Rodriguez, Madison screamed. Come out right now or I will burn this house down with you in it. I have gasoline in the car. You have 5 seconds. Through the phone, I heard sirens. Close now. Very close. Madison heard them too. Her head snapped toward the window. No. No, 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 no. She turned and ran out of my bedroom, down the hall, down the stairs. She's running, I told Rosa. She heard the sirens and she's running. Stay hidden. Don't come out until you see badges. Seconds later, I heard shouting downstairs. FBI, get on the ground. Drop the weapon. Drop it now. A single gunshot. Then silence. Simone! Rosa's voice through the phone. What happened? Are you hurt? I don't know, I whispered. I heard a shot. I don't know what happened. Stay where you are. I'm pulling up right now. Do not come out of that closet until I come get you personally. I don't know how long I crouched there in the back of my closet, behind my winter coats, gripping that flashlight like a lifeline. Time felt elastic, stretching and contracting. Then I heard Rosa's voice. Simone? It's me. It's Rosa. You're safe now. You can come out. I crawled out of the closet on shaking legs to find my sister standing in my demolished bedroom doorway, her face pale but composed. Behind her, uniformed officers were securing the scene. What happened? I asked. The gunshot. Madison fired at the officers when they confronted her. They returned fire. She's alive but injured. She's being transported to the hospital under armed guard. She'll survive to face trial. Rosa pulled me into a tight hug. It's over, Simone. It's really over now. I collapsed into her arms, the adrenaline finally leaving my body, replaced by bone-deep exhaustion and shock. Madison had come to kill me. There was no doubt in my mind. If the police had been even 2 minutes later. I need to get out of this house, I said. I can't stay here tonight. Maybe not ever. You're staying with me, Rosa said firmly. Pack a bag. You're coming to my place until this house is repaired and you feel safe again. As I threw clothes into a suitcase, my hands still trembling, Agent Morrison appeared in my doorway. Mrs. Rodriguez, I am so deeply sorry. We never should have allowed Judge Ellington to post bail for her. This is on us. Is she really caught now? I asked. Really and truly? She's in custody with a gunshot wound to the shoulder. She'll be in the hospital for a few days, then transferred to a maximum security federal detention facility. No bail this time. And Judge Ellington is being arrested as an accessory for helping her escape. I nodded numbly, still not quite processing that I'd almost died tonight. As Rosa drove me to her apartment in the pre-dawn darkness, I stared out the window at Houston's empty streets and thought about how close I'd come to becoming another statistic. Another elderly victim of financial abuse who didn't survive to see justice. But I had survived. Barely, but I had. And Madison? She'd just guaranteed herself the maximum sentence and then some. I spent 3 days at Rosa's apartment, barely sleeping, jumping at every sound. The news of Madison's attempted home invasion and shooting spread like wildfire through Houston. My phone wouldn't stop ringing reporters, concerned neighbors, distant relatives I hadn't heard from in years, suddenly wanting to check on me. Rosa screened every call. Vultures, she muttered, deleting yet another voicemail from a local TV station. They don't care about you, they just want the story. On the third day, Thursday afternoon, I finally kept my appointment with Dr. Kim. Rosa drove me, waited in the parking lot like a bodyguard, and drove me back. Dr. Kim was in her late 40s, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and a soothing voice that somehow made my destroyed house seem a little less horrifying. Mrs. Rodriguez, she said, after I'd recounted the entire nightmare, you've experienced severe trauma layered on top of severe trauma. Financial abuse from your son, attempted murder from your daughter-in-law. Most people would be completely broken by now. But you're still here, still fighting. That's remarkable. I don't feel remarkable. I feel terrified and exhausted and so angry I can barely breathe. All of those feelings are valid and appropriate. You were betrayed by the people who should have protected you. Your home, your sanctuary was violated. Your life was threatened. Of course you're terrified and angry. Dr. Kim leaned forward slightly. But here's what I need you to understand. None of this is your fault. Not the financial abuse. Not Madison's violence. None of it. You were targeted by a sophisticated criminal who exploited your love for your son. That's not a failure on your part. That's a crime committed against you. But I should have seen it, I protested. The signs were all there. I just ignored them because I didn't want to believe. That your son was capable of betraying you? Of course you didn't want to believe that. What parent would? You loved him. You trusted him. Those aren't weaknesses, Mrs. Rodriguez. Those are normal human emotions. Madison weaponized them, but that doesn't make having them wrong. We talked for the full hour. Doctor, Kim gave me homework journaling exercises, mindfulness techniques for when the panic attacks came, and they would come, she warned. She also wrote a prescription for a low-dose anti-anxiety medication just to take the edge off while you process this. As I was leaving, she stopped me. Mrs. Rodriguez, I understand you have to make a decision about your son's sentencing recommendation. That's an enormous burden to carry. Whatever you decide, mercy or justice or something in between, I want you to know that you're not responsible for fixing him. You're not responsible for his redemption. Your only responsibility right now is to yourself, to your healing. Everything else is secondary. Those words stayed with me as Rosa drove me back to her apartment. Friday morning arrived the deadline for my decision about Elijah's sentencing. I still didn't know what to do. Rosa made coffee and we sat at her small kitchen table, the morning sun streaming through the windows of her fourth-floor apartment. "What does your gut tell you?" she asked. My gut is confused. Part of me wants him to suffer the way I've suffered. Part of me remembers the little boy at his father's funeral and wants to give him a chance. And part of me wonders if it even matters if Madison hadn't manipulated him. Would he have done this anyway? Is he actually a victim too? Or is that just another excuse? Rosa was quiet for a moment. Can I tell you what I think? Please. I think Elijah is both. He's a victim of Madison's manipulation, and he's a perpetrator of crimes against you. Both things can be true. The question isn't whether he deserves mercy. The question is whether showing mercy serves you or serves him. What do you mean? If you recommend leniency because you think it'll make you feel better, because you think it'll help you heal, that's valid. But if you're doing it because you still feel responsible for fixing him, for giving him one more chance, for being the good mother even after everything that's not healing, that's just a different version of the same pattern that got you into this mess. I stared into my coffee cup, watching the cream swirl. I want him to have a chance to become someone better. Not for me. Not for our relationship that's dead, and I accept that. But for him. For the possibility that in 5 years, he could be a decent human being who contributes something to the world instead of taking from it. Then that's your answer, Rosa said simply. At 10 a.m., I called Bernard Chen. I'll support a recommendation for the lower end of sentencing guidelines, 3 to 5 years. But I want it on record that this isn't forgiveness. This is me choosing to believe in the possibility of redemption while acknowledging the necessity of consequences. I'll communicate that to the prosecutor, Chen said. For what it's worth, Mrs. Rodriguez, I think you're making a graceful choice. Not an easy one, but a graceful one. After I hung up, I felt lighter, not happy, not healed, but like I'd put down a weight I'd been carrying. My phone buzzed. A text from Lily. I know this week has been absolutely insane for you. Just wanted you to know I'm thinking about you. No pressure to respond. Just sending love, --.com. I smiled my first real smile in days. Rosa, how far is San Antonio from here? About 3 hours. Why? Because I think it's time I met my daughter. Saturday morning, Rosa and I drove to San Antonio in her sedan. Eleanor had insisted on coming too. You need a support system, she'd said firmly. And besides, I want to meet this girl. We'd arranged to meet Lily at a quiet cafe near the San Antonio Riverwalk. Neutral territory, public but not crowded, easy to leave if things got overwhelming. I'd changed clothes 3 times that morning, finally settling on simple navy slacks and a cream blouse. I wanted to look put together but not trying too hard. I wanted to look like a mother who had her life together, even though my life was currently in pieces. As we pulled into the parking lot, my heart was hammering. What if she doesn't like me? What if I don't live up to whatever image she's built in her head? Then you'll deal with that, Rosa said calmly. But Simone, she's been looking for you for 27 years. She's not expecting perfection, she's just expecting truth. The cafe was charming exposed brick, local art on the walls, the smell of fresh coffee and cinnamon rolls. And there, at a corner table, was Lily. She stood up when she saw us, and I got my first real-life look at my daughter. She was beautiful. Not Madison's cold, calculated beauty, but something warmer. She had Robert's nose, that distinctive shape I'd recognized in her photo. But she had my eyes, my cheekbones, my slightly crooked smile. She was wearing a flowing floral dress and nervously twisting a ring on her finger. "Simone?" she asked, her voice soft and uncertain. "Lily." The name came out as barely more than a whisper. We stood there for a moment, two strangers connected by biology and separated by 27 years, neither sure what to do. Then Lily took a step forward. Can I hug you? Is that okay?" "Yes," I managed. "Yes, please." She stepped into my arms and I held my daughter for the second time in her life. She smelled like lavender and paint supplies. She was exactly my height, and she was crying. I could feel her tears on my shoulder. "I'm sorry," she said, pulling back and wiping her eyes. "I promised myself I wouldn't cry. This is supposed to be happy." "It is happy," I said, my own tears flowing freely. Happy and sad and overwhelming and perfect all at once. We sat down, Rosa and Eleanor tactfully taking a table nearby to give us privacy but staying close enough to intervene if needed. For a moment we just looked at each other, drinking in details. I saw the way she pushed her hair behind her ear, the same gesture I'd done unconsciously my whole life. She saw the way I folded my hands on the table, apparently the same way she did. "I have so many questions," Lily said, "but I don't know where to start." "Start anywhere. I'll answer anything you want to know." "Why did you give me up?" The question wasn't accusatory, just curious. "I mean, I know from the adoption records that you were widowed and had another child, but was it just about money? Or did you not want another baby?" I took a deep breath. "Your father, Robert, had been dead for 6 months. I was 41, working 3 jobs to keep food on the table for Elijah, drowning in medical debt from Robert's final illness. When I found out I was pregnant, I was terrified. Not because I didn't want you, God, Lily. I wanted you so much. But I couldn't see how I could give you any kind of life. Elijah was barely coping with losing his father. I was barely coping. And I thought the most loving thing I could do was give you to people who could give you everything I couldn't. My parents were amazing," Lily said softly. "Mom Grace, she was a librarian. Dad Michael taught piano. We weren't rich, but we were happy. They told me I was adopted from the time I was little, always said it was because my birth mother loved me so much, she wanted me to have the best life possible. Did they? I had to know. Did they love you? Really love you?" "Completely." Lily pulled out her phone and showed me photos. A young Lily at a piano recital beaming next to her father. Teenage Lily with her mother at a library fundraiser. They died 4 years ago. Car accident. Drunk driver. I miss them every single day. "I'm so sorry," I said, and meant it. "They gave you what I couldn't. I'll always be grateful to them for that. They used to say that I had 3 parents, them and the brave woman who chose life for me even when it was hard. They never spoke badly about you. They said you must have loved me very much to make such a hard choice." The tears came harder now. "I held you for 5 minutes after you were born. You had your father's nose, I saw it immediately. And I memorized your face, every detail, because I knew it was all I'd ever have. Then they took you away, and I went home and locked that memory in a box and tried to never open it again. Until Madison found me." Lily's expression darkened. "I'm so sorry I got involved with her. I had no idea she was—" "Stop," I interrupted gently. "You were a victim too. She manipulated you just like she manipulated everyone else. That's not on you." We talked for 2 hours. I told her about Robert, how we met, how he proposed, his terrible dad jokes, his kindness. Lily told me about her adoptive parents, about her art teaching, about the students she loved. "I want to know about Elijah," she said finally. "My brother. Madison showed me photos. He looked so normal. But now he's facing federal prison time for helping her steal from me," I finished. "Lily, I don't know how to explain Elijah to you. He wasn't always what he became. Or maybe he was, and I just didn't see it. I honestly don't know anymore. Do you think—" Lily hesitated. "Do you think he'd want to meet me? Eventually, I mean. After everything's resolved." The question caught me off guard. "I don't know. Maybe. But Lily, You need to understand Elijah isn't the brother you're probably hoping for. He's broken and weak, and he's done terrible things. You might meet him and be completely disappointed. Or I might meet him and see someone who needs grace as much as I do." Lily met my eyes. "I lost my parents 4 years ago. I have no siblings that I grew up with. I've been alone, and I know the situation is complicated and messy, and maybe it'll never work out, but he's still my brother, and you're still my mother. Biology doesn't make a family, but it's a starting point. Maybe we can build something real from there." Her optimism was both heartbreaking and inspiring. She'd been lied to, used as a pawn in a criminal scheme, and she was still open to the possibility of family. "You're stronger than I am," I told her. "No," she said, reaching across the table to take my hand. "I think we're both just trying to survive the aftermath of someone else's cruelty. That doesn't make either of us weak." We spent another hour together, exchanging phone numbers, making plans to meet again the following week. As we were saying goodbye, Lily hugged me tight. "If this moment truly hit home for you, don't forget to tap that like button. It tells me you're right here with me. Can you see a bit of yourself in this story? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what part spoke to you most." "Thank you," she whispered, "for giving me life, for making the hard choice, for finding your way back to me, even if it took 27 years and a criminal investigation." Driving back to Houston with Rosa and Eleanor, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Not for a relationship with Elijah that was gone and I'd made peace with it, but hope that maybe, possibly, I could build something new with Lily. Something honest and real, not based on money or obligation, but on genuine connection. "She's wonderful," Eleanor said from the back seat. "Simone, you made the right choice all those years ago, and you're making the right choices now." "I hope so," I said. "God, I really hope so." The following Tuesday, I returned to my house for the first time since the break-in. A security company had repaired the broken window and reinforced all the doors. New locks, new alarm system, cameras on every corner of the property. The bedroom door had been replaced, the dresser repositioned. But I could still feel Madison's presence. Still hear her screaming my name. Still see the gun in her hand. "It's going to take time," Dr. Kim had told me in our session. "Your brain associates this space with trauma now. You might never feel completely safe here again. And that's okay. You can sell it. Start fresh somewhere new." Eleanor had suggested I stay with her until I decided what to do. "You shouldn't be alone right now," she'd insisted, "and I have that guest room just sitting empty." So, I'd accepted. At 77, I was temporarily homeless by choice, staying in my neighbor's spare bedroom, trying to rebuild a life that had been systematically demolished. On Wednesday morning, Bernard Chen called. "Madison's preliminary hearing is scheduled for next Tuesday. Given her flight attempt and the home invasion, the prosecutor is pushing for an immediate trial date. They want to move fast before she tries anything else." "How fast?" "They're requesting a trial date in 6 weeks. It's aggressive, but the judge seems inclined to grant it given the circumstances." 6 weeks. In 6 weeks, I'd have to face Madison in court. Testify about everything she'd done, relive it all in front of a jury. "And Elijah?" I asked. "His attorney is finalizing the plea agreement. Based on your recommendation for leniency, the prosecutor is offering 3 years with possibility of supervised release after 18 months. He'll plead guilty next week. 3 years. My son would be 32 when he got out, still young enough to rebuild his life. Whether he'd actually do that remained to be seen. Thursday afternoon, I met with a realtor about listing my house. Walking through the rooms with a stranger, hearing her talk about staging and market value, felt surreal. This house held 30 years of memories: Robert's last Christmas, Elijah's childhood, my entire adult life. But Eleanor was right. I'd never feel safe here again. "I think we can list at $950,000, the realtor said, tapping notes into her iPad. "River Oaks is hot right now. We'll probably get multiple offers within a week. Almost $1 million. Money to start over somewhere new. Money Madison and Elijah had tried to steal, but failed." That night, Lily called. We'd been texting daily since San Antonio, but this was our first actual phone conversation. "I've been thinking," she said after we'd exchanged pleasantries. "About Elijah. About what kind of relationship if any, might be possible. And I wondered, would you be okay if I wrote him a letter? Not to excuse what he did, just to, I don't know, introduce myself. Let him know I exist, and that I don't hate him. The request surprised me. You want to reach out to him? I know it sounds crazy, but I've spent my whole life wondering about my biological family, and now I have a brother, even if he's a brother who made terrible choices. I just want him to know I'm real. That there's someone out there who shares his blood and doesn't think he's beyond redemption. Lily, he doesn't deserve your compassion. Maybe not. But I'm not offering it for him. I'm offering it for me, because I don't want to be the kind of person who writes people off completely. My parents taught me that everyone deserves a chance at redemption, even people who've done horrible things. Her parents had raised her well, better than I'd raised Elijah, apparently. If that's what you want, then yes. I won't stop you. But Lily, don't expect anything back. Don't expect him to be grateful or changed or suddenly worthy of your kindness. I won't. I'm going into this with my eyes open, but I need to try. For my own peace of mind. After we hung up, I marveled at her maturity. At 27, she had more wisdom and grace than I'd had at 40, than I had now at 77. Friday morning, Agent Morrison called with news. Madison's public defender is pushing for a psychiatric evaluation. They're going to argue diminished capacity, possibly an insanity defense. You're kidding. I wish I was. It's a long shot. The evidence of premeditation is overwhelming. But her attorney is desperate. They know she's looking at 25 to 30 years if convicted on all counts. Will it work? Unlikely. She planned these crimes meticulously over years. She kept detailed records. She manipulated multiple victims across multiple states. That's not insanity, that's sociopathy. But it might delay the trial. Great. More waiting. More time looking over my shoulder, wondering if her criminal network would retaliate. That afternoon, I had another session with Dr. Kim. I told her about Lily's plan to write to Elijah, about my decision to sell the house, about the upcoming trial. You're making hard choices, Dr. Kim observed, selling the house, establishing boundaries with Elijah, letting Lily forge her own relationship with her brother. Those all require strength. How are you sleeping? Badly. I keep having nightmares about Madison breaking down the door. Sometimes in the dreams, the police don't come in time. Sometimes I couldn't finish the sentence. That's normal. Traumatic intrusive thoughts. Are you taking the medication I prescribed? Sometimes. I don't like how it makes me feel. Fuzzy. Fuzzy is better than terrified. At least temporarily. Simone, you nearly died. Your brain is trying to process a life-threatening event. Give yourself permission to not be okay right now. I don't know how to not be okay. I've spent my whole life being strong, being capable, being the one everyone could depend on. And look where that got you, Dr. Kim said gently but firmly. Exploited, nearly killed, and alone. Maybe it's time to try something different. Maybe it's time to let other people take care of you for a change. The words hit harder than I expected. Let other people take care of me. When was the last time I'd allowed that? When Robert was alive? Before that? I don't know how, I admitted. Start small. Let Eleanor make you dinner. Let Rosa screen your calls. Let Lily care about you without expecting you to fix her problems or give her money. Just receive. Be on the receiving end of love and care instead of always giving it. It sounded so simple. It felt impossible. Saturday morning, Eleanor and I went to the garden club meeting she'd been inviting me to for weeks. A group of 8 women, ranging in age from 65 to 83, gathered in Eleanor's backyard to discuss fall planting and share coffee cake. Everyone, this is my friend Simone Rodriguez. Eleanor introduced me. She's been going through a difficult time, and I told her our group would be a good place to find support. I expected polite smiles and shallow pleasantries. Instead, I got brutal honesty. Financial abuse from your son? Asked a woman named Margaret, who was 80, and didn't believe in mincing words. Join the club. My daughter-in-law stole $40,000 from me before I caught on. That was 12 years ago. Haven't spoken to either of them since. My grandson forged my name on a reverse mortgage application, shared Patricia, 71, tried to take my house right out from under me. I had him arrested. He did 18 months. My niece convinced me to invest in her business, said Carmen, 68. Turns out there was no business, just her shopping addiction. Lost $75,000. One by one they shared their stories. Not with self-pity, but with the matter-of-fact tone of survivors who'd come out the other side. Here's what I learned, Margaret said, pointing a cookie at me for emphasis. Family is supposed to love you. When they don't, when they steal from you, lie to you, abuse your trust, you're allowed to cut them off. You're allowed to protect yourself. And you're allowed to build a new family with people who actually give a damn about you. She gestured around the circle. This is my family now. These women. We've been through hell and came out holding each other up. That's what family should be. I looked around the circle at these strong, scarred, surviving women and felt something shift in my chest. I wasn't alone. I wasn't the only fool who'd been betrayed by someone she loved. I was part of a sisterhood I'd never known existed. Thank you, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I needed to hear that. Stick with us, honey, Carmen said with a wink. We'll teach you how to be a magnificent bitch when necessary, with style and without apology. Everyone laughed, and for the first time in weeks, I laughed too. Really laughed from my belly, until tears ran down my face. Later that afternoon, Rosa called. Elijah's plea hearing is Monday at 10 a.m. Chen wants to know if you want to be there. Do I have to be? No. It's not required. But it might give you closure. Seeing him officially plead guilty, hearing the judge sentence him, watching the consequences become real. I thought about it. Did I want to see my son sentenced to federal prison? Did I want that image Elijah in handcuffs being led away to be my last memory of him? I'll be there, I said. I need to see it through to the end. Monday morning arrived cold and gray, matching my mood. I dressed in a simple black pantsuit funeral clothes for the death of my relationship with my son. Rosa picked me up at 8. Eleanor insisted on coming too. You need people in your corner, she'd said firmly. I'm coming. The federal courthouse was imposing all marble and security checkpoints and the weight of institutional justice. We met Bernard Chen in the hallway outside the courtroom. Simone, I want to prepare you. Elijah is going to look rough. He's been in county jail awaiting this hearing. He's lost more weight. And when the judge asks if he has anything to say before sentencing, he's going to address you directly. His attorney coached him to keep it brief, but he insisted on speaking. What's he going to say? I don't know. But whatever it is, you don't have to respond. You don't owe him anything. We entered the courtroom. It was smaller than I'd expected, more intimate. Elijah was already there at the defendant's table with his attorney, David Brennan. He was wearing an orange jumpsuit that swallowed his now gaunt frame. His hands were cuffed in front of him. When he saw me, his face crumpled, but I kept my expression neutral. I was here as a witness, not as his mother. The judge, an older woman with steel gray hair and sharp eyes, entered, and everyone stood. Case number 2025, CR 8847, United States versus Elijah James Rodriguez. And just like that, it began. The formal reading of charges. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Identity theft. Elder financial abuse. Attempted guardianship fraud. How does the defendant plead? Elijah stood, his voice barely audible. Guilty, Your Honor. To all charges. The judge nodded. Mr. Rodriguez, do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are waiving your right to a trial by jury? Yes, Your Honor. And do you understand that you are facing a potential sentence of 3 to 5 years in federal prison with supervised release following? Yes, Your Honor. The prosecutor outlined the plea agreement. The defense attorney acknowledged its terms. It was all very procedural, very efficient, very final. Then the judge said, Mr. Rodriguez, before I accept this plea and impose sentencing, do you have anything you'd like to say to the court? Elijah turned to face me directly, tears streaming down his face. I do, Your Honor. But it's not to the court. It's to my mother. The courtroom fell silent. Even the court reporter paused, fingers hovering over the keys. Judge Martinez looked at Elijah over her reading glasses, then at me, then back to him. Proceed, Mr. Rodriguez. But keep it brief. Elijah's hands trembled in the cuffs. He took a shaky breath and looked directly at me for the first time since I'd entered the courtroom. Mom, I know you don't want to hear anything I have to say. I know I destroyed any right I had to call you that, but I need you to know some things before I go away. Not for me, I don't deserve your understanding, but because you need to know the full truth." I sat perfectly still, Rose's hand finding mine under the table. "You asked me once if I ever really loved you. The answer is yes. I loved you so much that I resented you for it. Does that make sense?" His voice cracked. "You were this perfect example of sacrifice and strength. You raised me alone, worked yourself to exhaustion, gave me every opportunity, and I felt like I could never measure up to you. Like I was always going to be a disappointment compared to what you'd accomplished." "Mr. Rodriguez," the judge warned, "this is not therapy. Get to the point." "Sorry, Your Honor." Elijah wiped his face on his shoulder since his hands were restrained. "The point is, when I met Madison, she made me feel like I was enough. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel like I was failing. She said all the right things, made me believe she loved me. And by the time I realized she didn't, by the time I understood she was using me to get to your money, I was so deep in the lies that I couldn't see a way out." He paused, struggling for composure. "But that's not an excuse. I knew what was happening. I knew we were lying about rent, about expenses, about everything. I knew about the fake invoices and the embezzlement and the plan to have you declared incompetent, and I went along with all of it because I'm weak. Because I was more afraid of Madison leaving me than I was ashamed of betraying you." "Is there a point to this confession?" Judge Martinez asked, her tone sharp. "Yes, Your Honor. The point is this." Elijah turned back to me, his eyes desperate. "Mom, you have a daughter. Lily." She wrote to me. "The letter came to my lawyer last week. She's kind and forgiving and everything I'm not. She wants to know me even after everything I've done, and I need you to know that I'm going to write her back and tell her not to waste her time on me. Tell her to focus on building a relationship with you because you're worth knowing, and I'm not." My breath caught. Lily had written to him, and he was planning to push her away. "But before I do that," Elijah continued, "I need to tell you something Madison said to me the night before she came to your house. She called me from her father's estate after she cut off the ankle monitor. She was manic, furious, completely unhinged. She told me her plan: she was going to your house to solve the problem permanently. Those were her exact words." The courtroom was dead silent now. "I thought she meant she was going to threaten you, scare you into dropping the charges. I didn't realize," his voice broke completely. "I didn't realize she meant to kill you. And when I found out the next morning what had happened, that she'd broken in with a gun, that you'd almost died because of me bringing her into your life, I wanted to die too." "Mr. Rodriguez, that's enough," Judge Martinez said, but her voice had softened slightly. "I'm almost done, Your Honor." Elijah looked at me one final time. "Mom, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even want it because I don't deserve it. I just need you to know that if you had died that night, it would have destroyed me completely. Not because of what I'd lose, I already lost you the day I agreed to that first lie. But because you deserved so much better than the son I turned out to be. You deserved a son like Dad would have been proud of. And I'm sorry, I'm so desperately sorry that I wasn't that person." He turned back to the judge. "That's all, Your Honor. I'm ready for sentencing." Judge Martinez studied him for a long moment, then looked down at her papers. "Mr. Rodriguez, I've reviewed the plea agreement, the evidence, and the victim impact considerations. The court accepts your guilty plea on all counts." She paused, and I could see her weighing her words carefully. "I've been on this bench for 23 years. I've seen every variation of family betrayal, financial abuse, and manipulation. What distinguishes your case is not the crimes themselves, which are unfortunately common, but the profound cognitive dissonance you appear to be experiencing. You clearly understand intellectually what you've done wrong. Whether you feel it emotionally, or whether this is simply a performance for leniency, I cannot know." Elijah opened his mouth to respond, but she held up a hand. "However, I note that you wore a wire for the FBI. You provided testimony that will help convict a dangerous criminal and potentially save other elderly victims. And your mother, despite having every reason to demand maximum punishment, has recommended leniency. Those factors carry weight." She shuffled papers, then delivered the sentence. "I hereby sentence you to 3 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years supervised release. You will be required to pay restitution to your mother in the amount of $329,000, or whatever portion thereof can be recovered through asset seizure and garnishment. You will undergo mandatory counseling for gambling addiction and financial crimes, and you will have no contact with the victim, your mother, unless she specifically requests it in writing." The gavel came down with a crack that made me flinch. "Bailiff, remand the defendant to custody. This court is adjourned." Two marshals approached Elijah. He stood, his legs unsteady, and allowed himself to be led toward the door that would take him to federal prison. At the threshold, he paused and looked back at me one final time. I saw my 8-year-old son in that face, the boy at his father's funeral, the teenager who'd worked part-time to help with bills, the young man with so much potential who'd made so many wrong choices. And then the door closed, and he was gone. Rosa squeezed my hand. "How are you feeling?" "Empty," I said honestly. "Just empty." Bernard Chen approached us in the hallway outside the courtroom. "Simone, that went as well as could be expected. The restitution order is enforceable. We'll work on recovering what we can. And the no-contact provision protects you legally." "What happens now?" "Now he goes to a federal prison facility, probably in Texas given his ties to the area. Bastrop or Big Spring, most likely. He'll serve at least 18 months before he's eligible for supervised release, assuming good behavior. The gambling, counseling, and financial crimes education are mandatory parts of his sentence. And Madison? Her trial starts in 4 weeks. The prosecutor wants you on the stand. Your testimony about the home invasion, about the years of manipulation, about finding out she'd targeted you through Elijah. It's going to be the emotional centerpiece of their case. 4 weeks. 28 days to prepare myself to face the woman who'd tried to kill me. "I'll do it," I said. "Whatever they need." That afternoon, back at Eleanor's house, I found myself standing in front of her guest room mirror, staring at my reflection. I looked older than 77. The past weeks had carved new lines into my face, added gray to my hair, hollowed out my cheeks. But I was still here. Still standing. Still fighting. My phone buzzed. A text from Lily. "I heard about the sentencing. Are you okay? Do you need me to come to Houston?" I called her instead of texting back. "I'm okay," I told her, though I wasn't sure it was true. Or I will be. "Lily, did you really write to Elijah?" "I did, last week. I told him about Mom and Dad, about my life, about wanting to know him someday when he's ready. Was that wrong?" "No. It was incredibly kind. He told the judge today that he's going to write back and tell you not to waste your time on him." Lily was quiet for a moment. "Do you think that's what I should do? Stay away from him?" "I think you should do whatever your heart tells you is right. But Lily, I need you to understand something. Elijah may never be the brother you're hoping for. He may never be worthy of your kindness. You could pour all your love and grace into him and get nothing back. Like you did," Lily said softly. "Like I did. But you know what's different?" Lily's voice was thoughtful. "I'm not his mother. I don't have 30 years of investment and expectations and broken promises. I'm just his sister, a stranger who happens to share his DNA. So if he disappoints me, it won't destroy me the way it destroyed you. I can walk away anytime." She was right. She had the luxury of distance, of detachment, of no history. Maybe that's what Elijah needed, someone who could see him without the weight of all his past mistakes. "Then I won't stop you," I said. "But promise me if he uses you, if he asks you for money or manipulates you, you'll tell me immediately." "I promise." "But Mom?" She paused, and I realized she'd called me Mom naturally, without asking permission first. "I don't think he's going to use me. I think he's going to push me away because he doesn't think he deserves any kind of relationship. And maybe my job isn't to fix him. Maybe it's just to remind him that redemption is possible, that people can change. That family doesn't have to be about debt and obligation. It can just be about showing up." After we hung up, I thought about her words. Showing up. That's all she wanted to do. Not fix, not save, not enable. Just show up. Maybe that was the difference between love and enabling. Love showed up without expecting anything in return. Enabling showed up and demanded gratitude, change, transformation as payment for affection. I'd been enabling Elijah for years, calling it love. Lily was offering him actual love, with no strings attached. That evening, the Garden Club women came to Eleanor's house for an impromptu gathering. They'd heard about the sentencing and wanted to check on me. 3 years, Margaret said, nodding approvingly. That's real time. Not a slap on the wrist. Good. Will you go visit him? Carmen asked. No, I said without hesitation. The judge's order says no contact unless I request it in writing. I won't be requesting it. Good, Patricia said firmly. You don't owe him visits. You don't owe him anything. We sat in Eleanor's living room drinking wine and eating cheese, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. Not in my big empty house filled with memories of betrayal. Not trying to be the perfect mother to a son who'd never appreciated it. Just here, with women who understood, who'd survived their own versions of family abuse and come out stronger on the other side. You know what you need? Margaret asked suddenly. A trip. Somewhere you've always wanted to go. Take that money from selling your house and go live your life. I've always wanted to see the Amalfi Coast, I admitted. Robert and I talked about going for our 25th anniversary, but he died before we could. Then go. Eleanor said simply. Book the trip. Take Rosa or take me or take yourself. But go live, Simone. You've spent 77 years taking care of other people. Take care of yourself for once. Italy. The thought of it made something spark inside me. Something that felt dangerously close to joy. I'll think about it, I said. Don't think, Margaret commanded. Do. That's the secret to surviving betrayal. You don't think your way through it. You do your way through it. Action. Movement. Living despite what they did to you. As I went to bed that night in Eleanor's guest room, I pulled up flights to Italy on my phone. Just looking. Just dreaming. But maybe, just maybe, I'd actually book one. The next morning, I woke to an email from Bernard Chen with the subject line, Asset Recovery Update, Good News. I opened it with trembling hands, still in Eleanor's guest bed, the morning sun streaming through unfamiliar curtains. Simone, several developments overnight. First, the bank holding your retirement account loans has agreed to restore the full $142,000 based on the forensic handwriting analysis confirming forgery. This will be completed within 10 business days. Second, Madison's seized assets totaling $93,400 have been released for victim restitution. You are entitled to $78,000 of this amount, the remainder going to 2 other identified victims. Third, Judge Ellington's Dallas estate has been seized by federal authorities and will be liquidated. You may be entitled to additional restitution from these proceeds. More to follow. BC. I read it 3 times, my hands shaking harder with each pass. $142,000 from the bank, $78,000 from Madison's seized accounts, potentially more from Judge Ellington's estate sale. That was $220,000. Not all of what I'd lost, but more than half. Real money coming back. Proof that justice could sometimes mean actual restitution, not just punishment. I called Rosa immediately. Did you see Chen's email? I did. Simone, this is huge. You're actually getting significant money back. That almost never happens in elder abuse cases. What about the rest? The direct transfers I authorized, the rent fraud, all of that? That depends on how much Elijah can pay in restitution over the years. His sentence includes wage garnishment once he's released and employed. 25% of his income will go to you until the debt is satisfied. But realistically, you might see another $50,000 to $75,000 over the next decade if he stays employed and doesn't default. So out of $329,000 stolen, I might eventually recover around $300,000. Not perfect, but close enough to hold that I could rebuild my life without financial catastrophe. There's something else, Rosa said, her tone shifting. Agent Morrison wants to meet with you today. He has information about Madison's criminal network that he thinks you should know before the trial. What kind of information? He wouldn't say over the phone, just that it's important and you need to hear it before you testify. We met Morrison at a coffee shop near the federal building. He was in plain clothes, jeans, and a button-down trying to blend in, but his FBI bearing was unmistakable. Mrs. Rodriguez, thank you for meeting me. He slid a folder across the table. What I'm about to tell you is disturbing, but you need to know the full scope of what Madison was involved in before you take the stand. I opened the folder. Inside were surveillance photos, financial documents, and what looked like transcripts of text messages. We've been building this case for 8 months, Morrison explained. Madison Ellington wasn't just a lone criminal targeting elderly victims. She was part of an organized ring spanning 5 states. The operation worked like this. They'd identify wealthy widows or widowers through public records, obituaries, probate filings, real estate transactions. Then they'd deploy what they called access agents to make contact. Access agents? I felt cold despite the warm coffee in my hands. Usually attractive young women or men who'd romance the adult children of these elderly targets. Madison was one of their most successful operators. She'd already run this scam 3 times before she met Elijah. The widow in Dallas, I mentioned? Madison walked away with $112,000 from that one before the family caught on. But they never reported it. She'd convinced them it was too embarrassing, that they'd look foolish. Rosa's hand found mine again. How many victims total? That we know of? 11 across Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, and New Mexico. Total estimated theft, $2.3 million over 6 years. Your case was number 12. $2.3 million, 11 families destroyed, 11 elderly people betrayed by their own children's romantic partners. Why didn't anyone stop her? I asked, my voice shaking with anger. Because most victims never reported it. The shame, the family dynamics, the complexity of proving financial abuse when transfers were technically authorized, it all works in the criminal's favor. You're the first victim who had the resources, the support system, and the determination to fight back with everything you had. Your sister's FBI connections, your financial documentation, your willingness to testify, that's what made this case possible. He pulled out another document. But here's what you really need to know before trial. The ringleader of this operation is a man named Thomas Brennan. Yes, same last name as Elijah's attorney David Brennan, they're brothers. The coffee shop tilted. What? David Brennan, the attorney representing your son, is the younger brother of the mastermind behind the criminal ring Madison worked for. We don't believe David is directly involved. He's a legitimate attorney with no criminal record. But we do believe Madison recruited Elijah specifically because his divorce attorney from years ago was David Brennan, and she knew the connection. Wait, I tried to process this. You're saying she researched Elijah before they even met, found out his attorney's name, and targeted him because his lawyer's brother runs a criminal organization? That's exactly what I'm saying. This wasn't random, Mrs. Rodriguez. You weren't just unlucky, you were hunted. Madison researched you for months before approaching Elijah at that alumni event. She knew your net worth, your property holdings, your health status. She knew you were widowed, that you had a close relationship with your only son, that you were generous to a fault. You were the perfect mark. I felt sick. Every moment of my relationship with Madison, every dinner, every gift, every conversation had been calculated, researched, planned. Thomas Brennan is being arrested today, Morrison continued, along with 4 other members of the ring. The FBI has been coordinating raids across 5 states. By tonight, the entire operation will be dismantled, and your testimony against Madison will be the centerpiece that ties it all together. Why me? Why is my testimony so important? Because you're the only victim who fought back hard enough to generate this much evidence. The wire recording of Madison confessing to the embezzlement and guardianship scheme. The documentation of the home invasion and attempted murder. The paper trail of systematic theft over years. Your testimony doesn't just convict Madison, it validates the existence of the entire conspiracy. It proves this wasn't isolated incidents, but an organized criminal enterprise. Rosa spoke up. What's the prosecution asking for in terms of sentence? Life in prison. Morrison's voice was flat. Madison's looking at conspiracy to commit wire fraud, racketeering, attempted murder, multiple counts of theft, identity fraud. With her flight attempt and the shooting, the prosecutor believes they can get life without parole. Life in prison. Madison would die behind bars. She was 32 years old. She could have 50 years ahead of her. All of them in a cell. Part of me, the merciful, empathetic part, felt a twinge of something like pity. The rest of me remembered her screaming my name as she broke down my door, remembered the gun in her hand, remembered $329,000 stolen, remembered 11 other victims whose lives she'd destroyed. Good, I said. She should never be able to hurt anyone again. Morrison nodded approvingly. The trial starts in 3 weeks. You'll be the prosecution's star witness. Defense attorneys will try to paint you as vindictive, as mentally unstable, as having ulterior motives. They'll bring up the fact that you gave Elijah leniency in his sentencing and question why you're pursuing Madison so aggressively. Are you prepared for that? I gave Elijah leniency because he cooperated and showed remorse, I said firmly. Madison showed neither. She escalated to attempted murder. She's the ringleader in this relationship. Yes, Elijah was weak and complicit, but Madison was the predator. I can hold both truths at the same time. Good answer. Practice saying that for the jury. They need to understand the distinction. Morrison closed his folder. One more thing. Thomas Brennan, the ringleader, is claiming he wants to make a deal. He's offering to testify against Madison in exchange for reduced charges. The prosecutor is considering it. Would his testimony help? It would confirm that Madison was working as part of his organization, that she was trained in manipulation tactics, that she received a cut of the proceeds from each successful con. It would destroy any defense argument that she was acting alone or that this was somehow a misunderstanding. Then I hope they take the deal, I said. I want every possible weapon used against her. I want the jury to see exactly what she is, a professional predator who destroys families for profit. After Morrison left, Rosa and I sat in silence for a long moment. Are you okay? She finally asked. No, I said honestly. I'm angry. I'm so angry I can barely see straight. She didn't just steal from me, she researched me like prey. She studied my weaknesses, my vulnerabilities, my love for my son. She weaponized everything about me, and I walked right into it smiling. You didn't walk into anything, Simone. You were ambushed by a professional con artist with years of training and a whole organization backing her up. This wasn't your failure. This was a crime committed against you. I know, intellectually I know that, but emotionally, I trailed off, unable to find words for the violation I felt. Eleanor had been right when she said, I might never feel safe in my house again, but it was worse than that. I might never feel safe in my own judgment again. How could I trust myself after being so thoroughly deceived? You're going to that therapy appointment tomorrow, right? Rosa asked. Yes. Dr. Kim at 2 p.m. Good. Because Simone, you need to process this. The scale of the betrayal, the premeditation, the fact that you were hunted, that's trauma on top of trauma. Don't try to tough it out alone. That night, back at Eleanor's house, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Madison researching me, looking up my property records, my business filings, my late husband's obituary, calculating my net worth like I was a stock to invest in. At 2 a.m., I gave up on sleep and opened my laptop. I pulled up the flights to Italy I'd been looking at. The Amalfi Coast in April supposed to be perfect weather, fewer tourists than summer, lemon trees in bloom. I hovered over the Book Now button for a long time. This trip would cost $8,000. $8,000 I could save, invest, use for something practical. But when had being practical ever brought me joy? I'd been practical my whole life. Practical when I gave up Lily for adoption. Practical when I worked 3 jobs after Robert died. Practical when I poured money into Elijah's life instead of my own. Where had practical gotten me? Betrayed, nearly murdered, and sitting in someone else's guest room at 77 years old. Maybe it was time to be impractical. I clicked Book Now before I could talk myself out of it. Round-trip flight to Rome, 7 nights in Positano at a hotel with a terrace overlooking the Mediterranean, a cooking class in Sorrento, a private boat tour of Capri, $8,247 charged to my credit card. I stared at the confirmation email, my heart pounding with something that felt suspiciously like excitement. I'd just spent more money on myself in one impulse purchase than I'd spent in the last 5 years combined. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something other than grief, anger, or fear. I felt alive. The morning after booking my Italy trip, I woke feeling simultaneously terrified and exhilarated. $8,000 on a vacation, the old Simone would have been horrified. The new Simone, the one forged in betrayal and survival, felt like she'd finally done something right. I told Eleanor about it over breakfast. Good, she said without hesitation. When do you leave? May 1st. After the trial, after everything's settled. I need something to look forward to. You need more than something to look forward to, Eleanor said, pouring more coffee. You need to remember what it feels like to live for yourself. To do things because they bring you joy, not because someone else needs you to do them. My phone buzzed. A text from Lily. "Can I come visit this weekend? I know it's short notice, but I'd really like to spend time with you. Maybe help you sort through things at your house if you're ready." The idea of Lily seeing my house, the broken door I'd replaced, the bedroom where I'd hidden in the closet, made me anxious. But she was my daughter. She deserved to know the full truth of what had happened. "Yes," I texted back. "Come Saturday. Stay overnight if you can. I'd love that." Saturday. 2 days away. 2 days to mentally prepare for my daughter to see the physical evidence of how close I'd come to dying. Friday afternoon, I had my session with Dr. Kim. I told her about booking the Italy trip, about Lily's visit, about the revelation that Madison had been part of an organized criminal ring. "How does it feel to know you were specifically targeted?" Dr. Kim asked. "Violating, like I was. Studied. Dissected. Like everything about me was cataloged and weaponized. I struggled to find the right words. When I thought it was just Madison being greedy, that hurt. But knowing she researched me for months, that she had training in manipulation, that there were 11 other victims before me, it makes me feel like I was never a person to her. Just a job. A mark." "That's because you weren't a person to her," Dr. Kim said bluntly. "Sociopaths don't see other people as fully human. They see us as objects to be used, resources to be extracted. That's what makes them so dangerous and so successful at what they do. How do I trust anyone again? How do I meet new people without wondering if they've researched my net worth, if they're being kind because they actually like me or because they want something?" That's the work we'll do together. Rebuilding your ability to trust without rebuilding your vulnerability to exploitation. It's possible, Simone. It takes time, but it's possible. Dr. Kim leaned forward. "The fact that you booked that trip to Italy? That's a sign of healing. You're investing in yourself, in your future, in experiences that bring joy. That's the opposite of what Madison wanted. She wanted to drain you dry and discard you. You're choosing to refill yourself instead." Saturday morning, Lily arrived at Eleanor's house at 10 a.m. sharp. She was driving a beat-up Honda Civic that had seen better days, and she bounced out of it with the energy of someone much younger than 27. When she hugged me, I noticed she smelled like lavender, and something else, paint thinner maybe. Art teacher smell. "Thank you for letting me come," she said. "I brought something for you. If this scene touched your heart, tap like to let me know it resonated with you. Do you see a glimpse of your own story in theirs? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments." She pulled a wrapped package from her car. Inside was a canvas about 2 feet by 3 feet of a painting. It showed 2 women sitting on a bench overlooking water. One older, one younger, both facing the sunset. Their faces weren't detailed, just suggestions of features, but their body language spoke of peace, of connection, of being exactly where they belonged. "I painted it after we met in San Antonio," Lily explained. "It's us, or what I hope we can become. 2 people who found each other despite everything trying to keep us apart." I felt tears prick my eyes. "It's beautiful. Lily, you're so talented." "I get it from someone," she said with a shy smile. "Dad Michael. He was artistic too. But maybe the gene came from somewhere else originally." "Your father, Robert, he couldn't draw a straight line to save his life," I admitted. "So if you got artistic talent from genetics, it skipped a generation somewhere." We drove to my house together. I'd warned Lily about the new security system, the cameras, the reinforced doors, but seeing it still made her gasp. "This is because of Madison?" "Yes." She broke in through that window. I pointed to the replaced glass, came up those stairs with a gun, tried to break down my bedroom door. Lily went pale. "You could have died." "I almost did. If the FBI hadn't arrived when they did." I didn't finish the sentence. We stood in my living room, the room where Elijah had confessed, where Madison had hurled her venom, where so much pain had unfolded. Lily walked slowly through the space, taking it all in. "This is where Elijah grew up?" "Yes. We moved here when he was 6, right after his father died. That was his bedroom upstairs, the one with the blue walls. I kept it the same for years after he moved out, like a shrine to his childhood." "Can I see it?" We climbed the stairs to Elijah's old room. I hadn't been in there since before the home invasion. Opening the door felt like opening a time capsule. His Rice University pennant still hung on the wall, his high school football trophies lined a shelf, his twin bed with the Navy comforter I'd bought him at 15. It was a museum of a childhood that now felt like it belonged to a different person entirely. Lily walked to the desk and picked up a framed photo of Elijah at maybe 10 years old, grinning with missing front teeth. "He looks happy here," she said softly. He was. Or I thought he was. Now I don't know what was real and what I invented because I wanted it to be real. "I wrote to him," Lily said, still holding the photo, 3 weeks ago. "I told him about Mom and Dad, about my job, about wanting to know him when he's ready. I told him that family doesn't have to be perfect to be real." Did he write back? "Not yet, but I'm not giving up." She set the photo down carefully. "I know everyone thinks I'm naive, that I should write him off, forget he exists, but I can't. He's my brother. The only biological sibling I've ever had. And maybe he'll disappoint me, maybe he'll never be the person I hope he could be. But I have to try." Her conviction was both inspiring and terrifying. I didn't want her to go through what I'd gone through the years of hoping, the slow realization that love wasn't enough to change someone. "Just promise me you'll protect yourself," I said. "Don't give him money. Don't co-sign anything. Don't let him manipulate you the way he manipulated me." "I promise. But also, I don't think he will. I think he's so deep in self-loathing right now that he's more likely to push everyone away than try to use anyone." Lily looked at me. Did he seem remorseful at the sentencing? Or was it an act? I honestly don't know. I want to believe it was real. But after being lied to for so long, I don't trust my own judgment anymore. We spent the afternoon sorting through things I wanted to keep versus things that needed to go before the house sale. Lily was helpful and gentle, never pushing me to get rid of anything I wasn't ready to release. We found boxes of Elijah's childhood artwork in the garage. Finger paintings from kindergarten, a ceramic bowl he'd made in middle school, his high school senior art project, a sculpture made of found objects that he'd called Father's Memory. "Do you want to keep any of this?" Lily asked. I looked at the boxes, at years of creativity and growth captured in childhood artifacts. The old Simone would have kept it all, unable to let go of any piece of her son. "No," I said. "Let's donate it. Maybe some teacher can use the art supplies. The ceramic bowl can go to Goodwill. The sculpture..." I hesitated, then firmed my resolve. "The sculpture, too. It belongs to a version of Elijah that doesn't exist anymore." We loaded 6 boxes of Elijah's things into Lily's car for donation. With each box we carried out, I felt lighter. That evening, we ordered Thai food and ate it sitting on Eleanor's back patio, watching the sunset. Lily told me about her students, the brilliant ones, the struggling ones, the ones who discovered themselves through art. "There's this one girl, Marisa. She's 14, comes from a rough home situation. Her dad's in prison, Mom works 3 jobs, but when she paints, it's like she transforms. She's working on this series about resilience flowers growing through concrete, birds with broken wings learning to fly again. It's heartbreaking and beautiful." "Sounds like she has a good teacher," I said. "I try. I remember what it was like to need art as an escape. After Mom and Dad died, I painted obsessively for months. It was the only way I could process the grief." We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the kind of silence that only comes when 2 people are genuinely at ease with each other. "Can I ask you something?" Lily said eventually. "About when you gave me up. Do you regret it?" I considered the question carefully. I regret that circumstances made it necessary. I regret that I didn't have the resources to keep you. But do I regret the choice itself? I looked at her, this poised, talented, kind young woman. "No. Because you got parents who loved you completely. You got a childhood I couldn't have given you. You became this amazing person. How could I regret that? Even though it meant you never knew me? Even though. Because it wasn't about what I wanted. It was about what you needed. And you needed parents who could be present, financially stable, emotionally available. I couldn't be those things at 41 with a 5-year-old and no partner and 3 jobs." Lily reached across the table and took my hand. "Thank you. I needed to hear that it wasn't because you didn't want me." God, no. I wanted you desperately. But wanting wasn't enough. We stayed up late talking about her adoptive parents, about Robert, about my career in real estate, about her dreams of one day opening an art therapy studio for at-risk kids. It was the kind of conversation I'd always imagined having with a daughter but never had the chance to have with Elijah, who'd always kept me at arm's length emotionally. As we were getting ready for bed, Lily hugged me goodnight. "I'm glad Madison's scheme brought us together," she said. "I hate how it happened. I hate what she did to you. But I'm grateful I know you now." "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." After she went to the guest room, I sat in Eleanor's living room for a long time, thinking about the strange mercy of having something good emerge from something evil. I'd lost a son, but I'd gained a daughter. I'd lost $300,000, but I was getting most of it back, and I'd learned I could survive without it. I'd lost my sense of safety, but I was learning to build a new kind of strength. The old life was gone. But maybe, just maybe, the new life would be better. Sunday morning, Lily and I had breakfast at a small cafe near Eleanor's house. It was one of those perfect Houston mornings, cool enough to sit outside, warm sunshine, the whole day stretching ahead with possibility. "I need to head back to San Antonio by noon," Lily said, checking her phone. "I have lesson plans to finish for Monday, but can we do this again? Maybe in 2 weeks?" "Absolutely." "And Lily, after Madison's trial is over, after everything settles down, would you want to come to Italy with me? I booked a trip to the Amalfi Coast in May, a whole week. I'd love to have you there." Her face lit up. "Are you serious? Italy? With you?" "Completely serious. I'll pay for everything, your flight, your hotel, everything. I want to take my daughter on a trip, make memories that aren't tainted by all this darkness." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "I would love that, more than anything." After she left, I felt that same lightness I'd experienced after booking the trip. I was building something new, something that wasn't about obligation or guilt or trying to earn love, just connection. Real, honest connection. Monday morning brought a call from Agent Morrison. "Mrs. Rodriguez, Thomas Brennan's deal went through. He's testifying against Madison in exchange for a reduced sentence. The trial schedule has been moved up. Jury selection starts Thursday, opening statements Monday." "This Thursday? That's 3 days away." "The judge wants to move fast. Madison's attorney keeps filing delay motions, and the court is tired of it. Can you be ready?" "I don't know. I thought I had more time to prepare. The prosecutor, Angela Chen, no relation to your attorney Bernard, wants to meet with you Wednesday to prep your testimony. She'll walk you through everything, practice cross-examination, prepare you for what the defense will throw at you." After we hung up, I immediately called Dr. Kim's office and begged for an emergency session. Her receptionist squeezed me in Tuesday afternoon. Tuesday's therapy session was brutal. Dr. Kim didn't sugarcoat anything. "You're going to be on that stand for hours, possibly a full day. Madison's attorney will try to break you. They'll suggest you're lying, that you're vindictive, that you manipulated Elijah's testimony against Madison because you're angry about the wedding. They'll bring up the fact that you recommended leniency for Elijah but are pursuing Madison aggressively. They'll paint you as unstable, as confused, as having ulterior motives. How do I handle that? You tell the truth, calmly, factually, without emotion. The prosecutor will ask about your relationship with Madison, about the money, about the home invasion. You answer simply and directly. When the defense attorney tries to rattle you, you take a breath, pause, and respond without defensiveness." Dr. Kim leaned forward. "The jury needs to see a credible, sympathetic victim, not an angry woman seeking revenge. Can you do that?" "I don't know if I can separate the anger from the truth. I'm so angry, Dr. Kim. Every time I think about her researching me, targeting me through my son, planning to have me killed, use that anger. Channel it into clear, powerful testimony. But don't let it control you. Don't let her make you look unhinged. That's what her attorney wants, to make you seem like an unreliable witness." We practiced for an hour. Dr. Kim played the role of aggressive defense attorney, asking horrible questions designed to make me lose my temper or break down crying. "Mrs. Rodriguez, isn't it true that you were smothering your son with your generosity, that you used money to control him?" "No. I gave freely because I loved him. But you kept records of every dollar. Doesn't that suggest you were keeping score?" "I kept records because I'm a businesswoman. It's how I've always managed finances. And when the money stopped flowing, you decided to destroy your son's marriage out of spite, didn't you?" Deep breath. Pause. "No. I stopped giving money because I discovered I was being systematically defrauded. The destruction of Elijah's marriage was a consequence of Madison's crimes, not my revenge. Over and over, Dr. Kim threw horrible questions at me until I could answer, without trembling, without crying, without losing my composure. By the end, I was exhausted but calmer. I can do this, I said, more to convince myself than Dr. Kim. Yes, you can. And Simone? Remember, you're not on trial. She is. You're the victim. The jury already wants to sympathize with you. Don't give the defense ammunition to change that. Wednesday morning, I met with Prosecutor Angela Chen in her office at the federal building. She was in her mid-40s, sharply dressed in a navy suit, with an intensity that reminded me of Rosa. Mrs. Rodriguez, thank you for being willing to testify. I'm going to be direct with you. Your testimony is crucial. We have financial records, we have the wire recording from Elijah, we have Thomas Brennan's cooperation, but what we need is emotional impact. We need the jury to understand that behind all these documents and recordings is a real person whose life was nearly destroyed. She walked me through her planned questions. When did you first meet Madison? How did the financial support begin? When did you start to suspect something was wrong? Tell us about the wedding you weren't invited to. Tell us about finding out you'd been lied to about the rent. Tell us about the night Madison broke into your home. We practiced for 3 hours. Then she brought in an assistant to play defense attorney for mock cross-examination. Mrs. Rodriguez, you gave your son over $300,000 across 3 years. That's an extraordinary amount of money. Were you trying to buy his love? No. I was supporting what I believed were legitimate needs. But you must have known a 26-year-old college graduate should be able to support himself. Why did you continue giving? Because he was my son and I loved him. And because I believed the explanations I was given about temporary hardships. Isn't it true that you were lonely after your husband's death and you used money to keep your son dependent on you? This question hurt because there was a grain of truth in it. Had I been lonely? Yes. Had that made me more vulnerable to manipulation? Probably. I was widowed at 42, I said carefully. I raised my son alone. Was I lonely sometimes? Yes. Did I use money to manipulate him? No. I gave freely because that's what mothers do. Angela Chen stopped the mock cross-examination. Good answer. Own the loneliness, the jury understands that. But don't own manipulation. You're the victim here. Wednesday night I couldn't sleep. Tomorrow was jury selection. By next week, I'd be on that stand. Looking at Madison across the courtroom, reliving the worst moments of my life in front of strangers. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number with a Texas prison prefix. My heart stopped. Elijah. He was texting from prison. Mom, I know I'm not supposed to contact you, but I need you to know something before you testify. Madison called me from jail 2 days ago. She has access to a contraband phone somehow. She told me that if you testify against her, she has people on the outside who will hurt you. She said, accidents happen to old women all the time. Mom, please tell the FBI. Please protect yourself. I can't lose you forever, knowing I'm the reason you died. Please, E. My hands shook so hard I nearly dropped the phone. I immediately called Morrison's emergency number. She's threatening you from inside jail? His voice was sharp with anger. Forward me that text immediately. We'll search her cell, find the contraband phone, add witness intimidation to her charges. Mrs. Rodriguez, do not let this scare you out of testifying. I'm not scared, I lied. Then, honestly, I'm terrified, but I'm still testifying. She's not going to win. Good. We're putting additional security on you starting now. Plainclothes officers will be outside Eleanor's house tonight. When you come to court Thursday, you'll have escorts. We're taking this threat seriously. After hanging up with Morrison, I called Rosa. I'm coming over right now, she said immediately. Pack a bag. You're not staying at Eleanor's anymore. You're coming to my apartment where I can keep an eye on you until this trial is over. Rosa, you don't have to. Yes, I do. You're my sister. And nobody threatens my sister. 20 minutes later, Rosa was at Eleanor's door with her old FBI-issue handgun visible on her hip. Let's go. Now. Eleanor insisted on coming too. I'm not letting you two handle this alone. I have a baseball bat and I know how to use it. The three of us, a 77-year-old real estate broker, a former FBI agent, and a 73-year-old retired teacher with a baseball bat piled into Rosa's car like some kind of geriatric Charlie's Angels. Despite the fear, despite the threat, despite everything, I started laughing. Once I started, I couldn't stop. It was borderline hysterical laughter, the kind that comes when you've been under so much stress that something finally breaks. "What's funny?" Rosa demanded. "Us. Look at us." Madison tried to scare me, and instead she got three angry old ladies ready to go to war. She has no idea who she's dealing with. Eleanor started laughing too. Then Rosa. We sat in Rosa's apartment parking lot at 3 in the morning, three women who'd survived their own versions of betrayal, laughing until tears streamed down our faces. When the laughter finally subsided, I wiped my eyes. I'm testifying tomorrow. Well, technically today. And I'm going to make sure that jury understands exactly what kind of monster Madison Ellington is. "That's my girl," Rosa said. We went inside, and I finally fell asleep on Rosa's couch with Eleanor snoring softly in the guest room and Rosa doing security checks every hour like we were in a safe house. Which I suppose we were. Thursday morning arrived too quickly. I dressed in a simple gray suit, professional, sympathetic, not trying too hard. Rosa had made me breakfast, but I could barely eat. At 8 a.m., 2 FBI agents arrived to escort us to the courthouse. At 9 a.m., we walked through security into a courtroom packed with potential jurors, reporters, and spectators. And there, at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit with her hair pulled back severely, was Madison. She looked different, thinner, harder, with none of the polished corporate attorney veneer I remembered. When our eyes met, she smiled. It was the coldest smile I'd ever seen. A smile that said, "I'm going to destroy you on that stand." I smiled back, a smile that said, "Try." Judge Martinez entered, and jury selection began. The war had officially started, and this time, I was ready. Jury selection took 2 full days. Angela Chen, the prosecutor, was meticulous, asking potential jurors about their relationships with elderly parents, their views on financial crimes, whether they could be impartial toward a young, attractive défendant. Madison's attorney, a slick defense lawyer named Richard Kovac, focused on finding jurors who might be sympathetic to a woman he'd clearly paint as a victim herself. By Friday afternoon, they'd seated 12 jurors and 2 alternates, 7 women, 5 men, ranging in age from 32 to 68. I studied their faces, wondering which ones would believe me, which ones Madison might charm. Judge Martinez announced opening statements would begin Monday at 9 a.m. I had the weekend to prepare for the most important performance of my life, because that's what it felt like, a performance. Not because I'd be lying, but because I'd have to present the truth in exactly the right way to make 12 strangers understand what Madison had done to me. Saturday, Rosa and I met with Angela Chen again for final prep. "The defense is going with a 3-pronged strategy," Angela explained, spreading documents across her conference table. 1. You're a controlling, manipulative mother who used money to dominate your son. 2. Madison was genuinely in love with Elijah and had no idea about the criminal enterprise she'll claim Thomas Brennan acted independently. 3. The home invasion was a mental breakdown brought on by the stress of false accusations, not attempted murder. "But that's absurd," I protested. "She had a gun. She broke into my house." "I know, and we'll prove it's absurd. But you need to be ready for Kovac to paint you as the villain. He's going to suggest you invented or exaggerated the financial abuse because you were jealous of Madison's relationship with Elijah, that you couldn't handle not being the most important woman in your son's life." The strategy was so twisted, so opposite of reality, that I almost couldn't process it. How do I fight that? By being yourself. By showing the jury who you really are, a hardworking woman who loved her son, tried to help him, and got systematically exploited. Your dignity is your best weapon. When Kovac tries to make you angry, stay calm. When he tries to paint you as controlling, emphasize how you gave freely without strings. When he suggests you're vindictive, point to the fact that you recommended leniency for Elijah. We practiced for hours. Angela threw every horrible question at me, preparing me for Kovac's cross-examination. "Mrs. Rodriguez, Isn't it true you kept detailed financial records because you intended to hold these gifts over your son's head? No. I kept records because I'm a businesswoman. It's responsible financial management. You gave your son hundreds of thousands of dollars, but you never once visited their apartment. Why is that? They never invited me. Madison always suggested we meet at my house or at restaurants. Convenient. No witnesses to contradict your story about what was happening in their home. The bank records aren't a story, they're facts. Over and over, until I could answer without my voice shaking, without tears, without giving Kovac any ammunition to paint me as unstable. Sunday, I went to church for the first time in months. Eleanor came with me to street. Anne's Catholic Church, the same church where Robert's funeral had been held 35 years ago. I lit candles, one for Robert, one for the mother I used to be, one for Lily, and surprisingly, one for Elijah. Not the Elijah who'd betrayed me, but the little boy at his father's funeral who'd promised to take care of me. I prayed, not for Madison to be convicted that felt too vindictive, just for strength, for truth to prevail, for the courage to face what was coming. Father Mike, who'd known me for decades, found me after Mass. Simone, I've been following your case in the news. I'm so sorry for what you've been through. Thank you, Father. I want you to know what that woman did to you. What your son participated in that's not your failure as a mother. Evil exists in the world. Sometimes it touches us through the people we love most. That doesn't mean we loved wrong. His words broke something open in me. I'd been carrying so much guilt, wondering what I'd done wrong in raising Elijah, how I'd failed to instill better values. I keep thinking if I'd been a better mother, if I'd been less generous or more suspicious or— Stop, Father Mike said firmly. You loved your son. You were generous and trusting because those are virtues, not vices. The fault lies with those who exploited those virtues, not with you for having them. I cried in that church, Eleanor's arm around me, releasing some of the toxic shame I'd been carrying. Monday morning arrived with cruel swiftness. I woke at 5 a.m., showered, dressed in my gray suit with a simple string of pearls, Robert's 20th anniversary gift to me, armor made of memories. If this part touched something deep inside you, hit that like button so I know it reached you. Do you see your own reflection in this character's journey? Tell me in the comments your story might just inspire someone else. Rosa drove me to the courthouse. The FBI escorts were already waiting. As we walked through the media gauntlet, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions, I kept my head high and my expression neutral. Inside the courtroom, the jury was already seated. Madison sat at the defense table, and for the first time I saw her without the orange jumpsuit. Kovac had dressed her in a soft blue blouse and black slacks, her hair styled simply, minimal makeup. She looked young, vulnerable, innocent. The calculated manipulation made me nauseous. Judge Martinez called the court to order. Miss Chen, your opening statement. Angela Chen stood and approached the jury box. She was powerful without being aggressive, clear without being condescending. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this case is about a predator and her prey. The predator is Madison Ellington, a woman who made a career out of targeting elderly victims, draining their bank accounts, and disposing of them when they became inconvenient. The prey is Simone Rodriguez, a 77-year-old widow who made the mistake of loving her son. She outlined the case methodically. The organized criminal ring. The 11 previous victims. Madison's calculated research into my financial status. Her romance with Elijah as an access point. The systematic theft over 3 years. The guardianship plot. The home invasion with a gun. The defense will try to paint Mrs. Rodriguez as a controlling mother seeking revenge. They'll suggest Madison was an innocent victim herself, manipulated by others, but the evidence will show you the truth. Madison Ellington is a professional con artist who targeted a grieving widow, exploited her love for her son, stole over $300,000, and attempted murder when her scheme was exposed. Angela's opening was devastating. I could see it landing with the jury. Several were taking notes, others nodding slightly. Then Richard Kovac stood for the defense. He was smooth, charming, with a warm smile that probably worked wonders on juries. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is not what the prosecution claims. Yes, money changed hands. Yes, my client had a relationship with Mrs. Rodriguez's son. But that's not a crime. That's called family. He painted a picture of Madison as a young woman in love, trying to please her boyfriend's demanding mother, caught up in schemes orchestrated by Thomas Brennan without her knowledge. He described me as a lonely widow who used money to control her son, who became enraged when he married someone she didn't approve of. Mrs. Rodriguez will take that stand and tell you she's a victim. But ask yourselves, is she a victim? Or is she a woman who gave gifts freely, then weaponized those gifts when she didn't get the gratitude she expected? Is she a victim? Or is she a vindictive mother who couldn't accept that her son grew up and chose a wife? Several jurors were nodding now. Kovac was good, dangerously good. The prosecution will show you bank records, they'll show you wire recordings, they'll parade witnesses who'll paint Madison as a monster. But remember, there are always two sides to every story. And by the end of this trial, you'll see that Madison Ellington is not a criminal. She's a scapegoat. When Kovac sat down, I felt sick. He'd just convinced at least some of those jurors that I was the villain in this story. Angela leaned over to me during the break. Don't worry, opening statements are just promises. Now we prove our case. And you, Simone, are our strongest proof. The prosecution's case took 3 days. They called the FBI agents who'd investigated the criminal ring. They played the wire recording of Madison confessing to embezzlement, and the guardianship plot, hearing her cold, calculating voice discuss eliminating the obstacle, made several jurors visibly uncomfortable. They called Thomas Brennan, the ringleader, who testified about recruiting Madison into the organization, training her in manipulation tactics, taking a percentage of her profits. Madison was one of our best operators, he said flatly. She had a gift for finding vulnerable targets and exploiting them completely. The Rodriguez case was supposed to be her biggest score, over $2 million in assets. But the old lady proved tougher than expected. His casual reference to me as the old lady, his complete lack of remorse, played beautifully for the prosecution. The jury looked disgusted. They called forensic accountants who walked through the financial records, showing the pattern of escalating requests, the rent fraud, the forged signatures on my retirement account loans. They called the FBI agents who'd responded to my house the night of the break-in, who described finding Madison with a loaded gun, who'd fired in self-defense when she'd aimed at them. By Thursday afternoon, Angela was ready for her star witness. The prosecution calls Simone Rodriguez. My legs felt like water as I stood. Rosa squeezed my hand. Eleanor mouthed, "You've got this." I walked to the witness stand, raised my right hand, swore to tell the truth. And then I sat down, looked directly at the jury, and prepared to tell my story. Angela started gently. "Mrs. Rodriguez, please tell the jury about yourself, your background, your family." "I'm 77 years old. I was married to Robert Rodriguez for 17 years, before he died of a heart attack when I was 42. We had one son, Elijah. After Robert died, I raised Elijah alone while running a small real estate brokerage business from my home. What was your relationship with your son like?" "I thought it was close. I thought we were a team, just the two of us against the world. I worked hard to give him opportunities, college at Rice University, help getting started in his career. I loved him more than anything." "And when did you meet Madison Ellington?" 3.5 years ago. Elijah brought her to Thanksgiving dinner at my house. He was so happy, so excited about her. He said she was brilliant, ambitious, everything he'd ever wanted. And I wanted him to be happy, so I welcomed her. How did the financial support begin? And so I told the story. All of it. The escalating requests, the lies about rent, the co-signed loans, the forged signatures, the secret wedding, the guardianship plot. The night Madison broke into my house with murder in her eyes. Angela asked her questions carefully, eliciting details that painted the full picture of systematic exploitation. By the time we broke for the day, I'd been on the stand for 3 hours. My voice was hoarse, my hands cramped from gripping the armrests. But I'd told the truth, calmly, clearly, without breaking down. "Excellent work," Angela told me. "Tomorrow, Kovac cross-examines you. That's when it gets ugly. But you're ready." I wasn't sure I was ready, but I was out of time to prepare. Tomorrow, Madison's attorney would try to destroy me, and I'd have to survive it. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Richard Kovac's face, heard his smooth voice twisting my words, painting me as the villain. Rosa stayed up with me, making chamomile tea at 2 a.m., reminding me over and over, You're the victim. Don't let him make you forget that. Friday morning arrived with gray skies that matched my mood. Back in the gray suit, pearls around my neck like a talisman, I walked into that courtroom knowing this was the day that would define everything. Richard Kovac stood as I took the witness stand again. He smiled warm, friendly, like we were old acquaintances catching up. "Good morning, Mrs. Rodriguez. I just have a few questions for you." A few questions turned into 6 brutal hours. "Mrs. Rodriguez, you testified that you gave your son $329,000 over 3 years. That's quite a sum. Were you keeping score?" "No. I kept records because I'm a businesswoman." Yes, you've said that. But isn't it true that every time you gave money, you logged it meticulously? Date, amount, purpose? Almost like you were building a case? I was managing my finances responsibly. Or were you creating a paper trail because you always intended to use these gifts against your son if he didn't meet your expectations? Objection. Angela was on her feet, argumentative. Sustained, Judge Martinez ruled. Rephrase, Mr. Kovac. But the damage was done. I could see it in 2 jurors' faces, doubt creeping in. Kovac continued, relentless. You testified that Madison and Elijah excluded you from their wedding. But isn't it true that you were overbearing about their wedding plans? That you tried to control every detail? No, I offered to help. You offered $30,000 and then tried to dictate the venue, the guest list, the menu, correct? I made suggestions. It was my money. Exactly, Kovac pounced. Your money, your control. And when they decided they wanted something intimate, something that was theirs, you were furious. Weren't you? I was hurt. There's a difference. Hurt enough to start investigating them? Hurt enough to hire your sister, a former FBI agent, to dig up dirt on your daughter-in-law? I didn't hire Rosa. She helped me because I'd been victimized. Or because you wanted ammunition for revenge? Objection, Angela again. Counsel is badgering the witness. Overruled, Judge Martinez said. The witness may answer. I took a breath, remembering Dr. Kim's coaching. Stay calm. Don't let him see you break. Mr. Kovac, I wasn't seeking revenge. I was seeking truth. There's a profound difference between the two. The answer landed well. I could see it in the jury foreman's nod. But Kovac wasn't done. Let's talk about the night of the alleged home invasion. Alleged? I couldn't help myself. She broke down my door with a gun. So you claim. But Mrs. Rodriguez, isn't it possible that Madison came to your house upset, wanting to talk, and you escalated the situation by calling the FBI? She had a gun, according to your testimony. But the gun wasn't fired by Madison, was it? It was fired by FBI agents. Madison was shot by federal agents. Mrs. Rodriguez, she nearly died. The implication hung in the air that somehow I was responsible for Madison being shot, that I'd orchestrated her near death. She came to kill me, I said, my voice shaking now despite my best efforts. She told Elijah she was going to solve the problem permanently. Those were her exact words. Words your son testified to. Yes. Your son, who was facing federal charges and desperately needed a plea deal. How convenient that his testimony aligned perfectly with your narrative. It wasn't a narrative. It was the truth. Your truth, Mrs. Rodriguez. But there are always 2 sides to every story. For 6 hours, he twisted and turned everything. Made my generosity look like control. Made my documentation look like premeditation. Made my fear look like vindictiveness. Made my love for my son look like obsession. By the time Judge Martinez called the afternoon recess, I was shaking, exhausted, barely holding myself together. Angela met me in the witness room. You're doing fine. He's throwing everything at you, but you're holding up. 1 more hour, maybe 2, and he'll be done. I don't know if I can survive 2 more hours of that. Yes, you can. Because every word you've spoken is the truth. And the jury knows it. Look at me, Simone. She gripped my shoulders. You are the victim. Don't let Kovac's theatrics make you forget that. The final 2 hours were somehow worse than the first 6. Kovac brought up Lily, my daughter I'd given up for adoption 27 years ago. Mrs. Rodriguez, you had a daughter you gave away. Did you ever regret that decision? Objection. Relevance. Angela was furious. Your Honor, it goes to the witness's character and her relationships with her children. I'll allow it, but tread carefully, Mr. Kovac. Did you regret giving up your daughter? I regretted the circumstances that made it necessary. But I don't regret the choice because she had a good life with parents who loved her. And now she's back in your life. Convenient timing, isn't it? Right when you're cutting off your son, suddenly this long-lost daughter appears? Madison found her as part of her scheme. Lily is another victim. Or is she your replacement son, the child who will finally give you the gratitude you always demanded from Elijah? The cruelty of it took my breath away, suggesting I'd use Lily, that my relationship with my daughter was somehow transactional. No, I said, my voice breaking. I love Lily because she's my daughter, not because she owes me anything, not because I expect anything from her. Just because she exists and I finally have the chance to know her. That's what real love looks like, Mr. Kovac. It doesn't keep score, it doesn't demand repayment, it just is. Something in my answer must have resonated because I saw several jurors wiping their eyes. Even Kovac paused, seeming to realize he'd pushed too far. No further questions, he said abruptly. Angela stood for redirect. Mrs. Rodriguez, Mr. Kovac suggested you were controlling. In 3 years, how many times did you visit your son's apartment uninvited? Never. I was never invited. How many times did you demand repayment of the money you'd given? Never. Until I discovered the fraud. I never asked for a single dollar back. How many times did you threaten to cut off funding if Elijah didn't do what you wanted? Never. That doesn't sound very controlling to me. Angela looked at the jury. It sounds like a mother who loved her son and got exploited for that love. No further questions, Your Honor. The witness is excused, Judge Martinez said. I stood on shaking legs and walked past Madison's table. She was smiling that same cold smile from the first day. But this time, I smiled back, because I'd survived. 8 hours on the stand, Kovac's best attempts to destroy me, and I'd told my truth. The trial continued for another week. The defense called character witnesses who testified that Madison was kind, generous, would never hurt anyone. They called a psychiatrist who diagnosed her with extreme stress-induced psychosis from my false accusations. But then Angela called her rebuttal witnesses. The other victims from other cities, elderly women who told stories eerily similar to mine. The FBI agents who documented Madison's training materials on how to manipulate vulnerable targets. The forensic accountant who showed that Madison had been systematically stealing for years before she ever met Elijah. Closing arguments were powerful on both sides. Kovac painted Madison as a victim of circumstances, caught in a web created by Thomas Brennan. Angela painted Madison as exactly what she was, a professional predator who destroyed lives for profit. The jury deliberated for 2 days. On the second day, at 3:47 p.m., they sent word they'd reached a verdict. We assembled in the courtroom. Madison was brought in, looking smaller somehow, less threatening. The jury filed in, their faces solemn. Madam Foreperson, has the jury reached a verdict? We have, Your Honor. On the charge of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of racketeering? Guilty. On the charge of attempted murder? A pause that felt like eternity. Guilty. Guilty on all 23 counts. Madison's face went white. Her attorney slumped. Behind me, I heard Rosa let out a breath she'd been holding. Judge Martinez set sentencing for 3 weeks out, but indicated she was inclined to follow the prosecution's recommendation: life in prison without possibility of parole. Life. Madison would die in prison, would never hurt another elderly victim, would never see freedom again. I felt no joy at the verdict, just exhausted relief. 3 weeks later, I sat in that same courtroom for sentencing. Judge Martinez allowed victim impact statements. I stood and faced Madison directly for the first time. Madison, you studied me like prey. You calculated my net worth, researched my vulnerabilities, targeted me through my son. You stole $329,000 money I'd saved through 40 years of honest work. You tried to have me declared insane. You broke into my home with a gun. You tried to murder me. Madison stared at me with empty eyes. But here's what you didn't count on. I survived. And not just survived, I'm rebuilding. I have a relationship with my daughter Lily now. I have friends who truly care about me. I'm taking a trip to Italy next month. I'm living my life on my terms, not as someone's victim. I paused, gathering my thoughts. You wanted to destroy me. Instead, you freed me. Freed me from enabling behavior disguised as love. Freed me from relationships based on obligation. Freed me to understand the difference between generosity and doormat. That's the knowledge you inadvertently gave me. That's the education I received through your cruelty. I looked directly at her. I hope you spend your life in prison learning what you never learned on the outside, that people aren't resources to be exploited. They're human beings who deserve dignity and respect. That's a lesson you desperately need. That's knowledge that might save your soul, if you have one left to save. Judge Martinez sentenced Madison to life without parole on the attempted murder charge alone, with additional consecutive sentences on the other charges. Effectively, Madison would never leave prison. As they led her away in chains, she looked back at me one final time. I saw no remorse, no recognition of the harm she'd caused, just emptiness. And I realized I was free. Truly, finally free. 1 year later, I'm standing on a terrace in Positano, watching the sun set over the Mediterranean. Lily is beside me, painting the scene in watercolors. We've been in Italy for 5 days, and it's been everything I dreamed. My house in Houston sold for $973,000. I bought a smaller condo near the Galleria, close to Eleanor and Rosa. I recovered $286,000 of the stolen money through restitution and seized assets. Not everything, but enough. Elijah is 18 months into his 3-year sentence. He writes to Lily every month letters full of remorse and slow self-discovery. She writes back, offering grace I never could. They're building something maybe. A sibling relationship forged in honesty rather than obligation. He hasn't written to me. The judge's no-contact order remains in place unless I request otherwise. I haven't requested it. Maybe someday I will. But not yet. The wounds are still too fresh. The knowledge that my son participated in a scheme to steal my life savings, to have me declared insane, cuts too deep. That's a lesson that takes time to process, an education in betrayal that requires years of healing. But I'm healing. Dr. Kim and I meet weekly. The Garden Club women have become my chosen family. Eleanor and I are planning a trip to Scotland next spring. Rosa calls every day just to check in. And Lily? Lily is the unexpected grace note in this symphony of betrayal. She's teaching me that family doesn't have to be about blood or history or obligation. It can simply be about showing up with honesty and love. The light is perfect, Lily says, adding golden highlights to her painting. This moment, it's perfect. She's right. This moment, earned through surviving the worst betrayal of my life, is perfect. Dear viewers of Voices of Auntie Rose, if you've made it this far in my story, thank you. Thank you for listening to this painful, difficult journey from victimhood to survival to, finally, something that looks like joy. The knowledge I gained through this nightmare is this. Love without boundaries is not love, it's enabling. That's a lesson I wish I'd learned decades ago. Generosity is beautiful, but it must be paired with discernment. That's knowledge that could have saved me hundreds of thousands of dollars and years of heartache. The education this experience provided was brutal but necessary. You cannot love someone into being worthy of your love. They have to choose to be worthy. And when they choose otherwise, you have to have the strength to walk away. Here's what I want you to take from my story: the real lesson, the genuine knowledge, the education that matters. If someone in your life treats you like an ATM, believe their actions, not their words. That's knowledge that protects you. If your generosity is met with entitlement rather than gratitude, that's not love, that's exploitation. That's a lesson worth learning early. If you have to buy someone's presence in your life, they're not actually present. That's education earned through pain. Real family shows up without being paid. That's knowledge. Real love doesn't keep score, but it also doesn't bankrupt you. That's a lesson. The people who truly care about you will be there in crisis, not just when you're useful. That's the most important education of all. I'm 78 years old now. I wasted years enabling my son's irresponsibility, calling it love. I nearly died because I confused generosity with worth. But I survived. And now I'm really living for the first time in decades. If my story resonates with you, if you've experienced similar betrayal, or if you're worried about someone in your life who might be exploiting you, please share your story in the comments below. I read every single one. Your voice matters. Your experience matters. Let's build a community of survivors who support each other. And please, if you found value in this story, subscribe to Voices of Auntie Rose. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story. Like this video and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Every subscription, every like, every share helps us reach more people who need to know they're not alone in their struggle. Tell me in the comments, how does this story connect to your real life? Have you experienced financial abuse from family members? How did you handle it? What knowledge did you gain? What lessons did you learn? What education came from your pain? I want to hear from you. I want to know what's in your heart, because that's what this channel is about. Real stories, real struggles, real survival, and real hope. To everyone watching this, I wish you good health, joy in your daily life, and the peace that comes from living authentically. May you find the courage to set boundaries with those who drain you, and the wisdom to cherish those who truly love you. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for listening to my story without judgment. Thank you for being part of this community. Take care of yourselves, my dear friends. Protect your hearts, guard your resources, and never forget your worth. This is Auntie Rose, signing off. Until next time, may your days be filled with genuine love, honest relationships, and the strength to walk away from anyone who treats you as less than you deserve. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you in the next video.